Hello, hello, and welcome to Plastic Platforms, episode 15. We're on my channel, Stubbs Gaming channel, this time round. Plastic Platforms is basically a show where two friends from other sides of the world talk about gaming, no matter what platform, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or even Nintendo if it's relevant. How are you doing, Centurion?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Freaking playing games, hanging out. Uh Excited freaking let me see. I had a birthday Thursday and next
Yeah,
week
happy
I get to take a
birthday.
little bit of thanks. Next week I get to take a little bit of a well-earned vacation.
You need to turn your phone off if you do.
That
You
there
do.
there there is a possibility that might happen.
Yeah,
Because I
I know what
mean,
you're like. Yeah, man.
yeah, and also my job, what can I say, man? Freaking yeah, there's nobody else that does what I do there, and it can turn into a crap show real quick. And I've literally I put up price sheets for people to have access to, so that way they don't have to call me to ask the price of something. And I literally got phone calls like, "Hey, how much does something like this cost?" Um, Look at the piece of paper on the wall next to your desk, and they're like, "Oh, it's right there." I'm like, "Yeah,
Ugh,
you just called me on my day off for something that was like literally right there, but no problem."
wow. But yeah,
uh,
anyway, so yeah, I've seen you've been playing the Hogwarts Legacy game on it earlier on. I see you on it.
yeah, that game is like crack. I I'm gonna be honest, man. I thought this game, I had my worries because of the delays and all the other stuff that took place with the game. I was like, okay, well, hopefully this game turns out all right, because of all the freaking, I mean, like, you know how it is, man. Everybody tries to find a negative in everything nowadays. And I was hearing so much more about the negatives. And finally, the game is in my hands. And like the rest of the world was like, oh my God, this game's actually really freaking good. It's paced well. I mean, I've got like over 30 hours in the game, and I'm still having new game mechanics like doled out to me. And like one of the mechanics was being able to finally upgrade my clothing to have traits, and to be able to upgrade it to have a greater defense and opposition skills. And I'm 30 hours in, and I just started being able to get into that. I know there is people that are grinding the game out way quicker if you
They
just stick to the
are, yeah.
story, but dude, I mean, I'm exploring, I'm going through, just having absolute fun doing all the little side quests. Yeah. What you been playing? How about that?
No, it's good to hear. A lot of people are liking it. They are, to be honest. Hogwarts Legacy. Welcome, Paul AFC. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate that. Recently I've been playing, getting back into Yakuza Kiwami 2. Getting on with the story with that. I do like the Yakuza games. It has prompted me with the release of, or up and coming release of, Ishin Like a Dragon. Um, it does look good because I like Yakuza, to be honest, but it's the Japanese games are actually one of the things I like about Game Pass, because if it weren't for Xbox Game Pass, I wouldn't have found that I like the Yakuza games. I know they've always predominantly been on PlayStation, but because of the Sega deal, partnership. A lot of the Sega games have came over. Yakuza, a lot of them are leaving as well. But if you notice, because they're so old, um, like Yakuza Zero and a lot of them, they're actually, when they leave the surface, they're like heavily discounted. So I got Yakuza Zero. Um, I even bought Kiwami and like Kiwami Two, and I think it was like 5 or 10 quid when it leave, because they advertise when they leave, and they're good prices they are. But my plan is I want to try and get through all of them. But I keep saying this, but the actual stories with Yakuza, despite they're not these big raging open worlds like, yeah, like what they called them Ubisoft games, them big Assassin's Creed games, them there's actually quite a depth of story to these Yakuza games, and a lot of the games are connected. You don't see it coming, and then they replay that certain bit that was in the last game, and it's quite depth stories. And a lot of the side missions they're not like generic, like go and collect a load of hats and stuff like that. They're quite good Yakuza games are. So without Xbox, I never would have discovered the Yakuza games. To be honest, I know they're on PlayStation, but I never would have took that risk and bought one. But yeah, that's what I've been playing on PC. I've been playing. Well, I play Gears 5 every day, but it's more to do with Game Pass points, Microsoft Reward points. On PC, if you log in once a day and just play any multiplayer game that's in Game Pass, Gears 5 multiplayer, it's called playing with friends, even though I don't know any of them I'm playing with. You just play one game and they give you 250 points. So I can get roughly 275 points just from playing on the PC. Not for long. And then I get about 610 points a day roughly at the minute. So it's really helped boost my Microsoft Reward points, this PC has. I'll be playing a bit of SteamWorld Dig on PC. And that's about it. And welcome to, I might be saying this wrong, Talis Gaming. Thanks for popping in. Good afternoon. It's 10:09 here because I'm in the UK. But yeah, thanks for popping in. That's what I've been playing, basically, Centurion. Sorry, it was a bit long-winded.
Oh no, right. I got me thinking. I was like, I need to eventually check out playing Game Pass on my PC, but I don't exactly per se play games on my PC.
All you can do, your PC could probably Gears 5 doesn't require high spec that PC. You could just literally, you don't have, there's like the quick play mode. And if you want to, there's a thing called, if you look for it, it's like a training thing in the multiplayer, and you're guaranteed to get a match every time. So it's bots and it's human players. So I pop into that, just play one of their matches, and I get my points. Because Gears 5, I like it, but it's difficult to get a game. You're sitting there you can be sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes sometimes, just sitting there waiting for people to play.
Wow. I'm not worried about the specs on my PC. It's just more along the lines of just, I don't know, freaking. I prefer to play on my big screen.
Oh no, I get you, but I'm just thinking you could rack some points up each day just by doing that.
I know I need to be more active in points. I know I really need to take advantage of the points thing. I have the points set up so that way I don't waste, like, when I buy games, I get points for that. I actually know guys that buy games and they don't have a single Microsoft Rewards account set up. And I'm like, dude, why are you doing that?
I know. Especially in America, you lot get more points. You do. People deny it, but you do. But the reward system is very great. It's a good thing. Unlike PlayStation's rewards, which are piss poor, let's say. Let's try and copy. Like, you win like GIFs and like pictures of things that are 3D, and you can spin it around in your app. It's totally rubbish. So I do criticise PlayStation people. Look, there you go. But to be honest, like with the Microsoft Rewards, a lot of what it is like the searches. Now, although they're searches, it's like paying people to search via Bing. Effectively, that's part of it. The searches, but there's play games, play this. If you get a reward if you get one achievement a day, that gets you 50 Microsoft Reward points. It's really good.
We're probably going to start seeing Bing explode here pretty soon because of the new implementation of the AI that everybody's talking about.
I'm not. I'm keeping away from that. I don't.
Well, you don't need to use. So you don't need to use that, like the AI, like where it reads the screen to you. But there's an AI for Google. Google, has their own AI. It studies and learns the internet. Microsoft, they just wanted it to be more interactive for the user. But that's where, like, how can I say, when you're dealing with a search engine, it's all about getting the proper results to the consumer. Like when you go in and you type in what you're wanting to find the internet to find, the better your AI, the more accurate your results are going to be. And that's where we're probably going to see a big shift, uh basically, because now that micro Bing is actually on the scale of becoming more accurate than Google. It's going to be interesting. Is Google going to do anything to compete to stay number one, or are they just going to go into that complacency and just basically kind of let Bing just grow and flourish without competing with it, and then all of a sudden one day they wake up and Bing is the number one search engine, at least here in the United States.
That could be true. It's a hard thing. Like globally, people use, well, unless you live in China, like most people use Google. They do, but you are right. Bing is a lot better than it used to be. The AI is a new thing. It's quite frightening what they can actually be able to. I suppose there's cheat systems, but kids could literally get them to write their homework for them. How are they going to get around that? Because they brought it up over here. How are they going to implement? Because like in secondary schools, I think most of the homework's now done by you have to do it on the computer, and I think it's because of cheating. But how would they know that AI has written it? Do you know what I mean? They've actually brought that up already. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're
You know what I
also
mean?
dealing with the situation that now there's some AIs that are being used that can impersonate people. They can actually synthesize their voice. And now you're
Scary.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's where they're saying, you're gonna have issues of, like, they showed like instances of it taking samples from like the president of the United States voice, and this
Wow.
thing was basically getting impersonating the president's voice, making him say things that he wasn't really saying.
Wow, that's mental. That is. Dreadpool, welcome and happy birthday. I hope you had a good birthday, mate. Oh,
What's up, Dreadpool? Yep, and happy birthday to him. I got to hang out with him yesterday on his birthday on Gaming Beyond the Box. Good
got it.
person he is. Heard that he had lots of fun at his actual physical birthday.
Yeah, it looked. There were some photos up there. I think he had like a. I know Dredd likes his horror and Halloween. I think he had like a. It looked like a kind of funeral theme thing.
It was from what he said. It was a funeral for his youth.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but yeah, it's very different. It looks like he had loads of fun, which is the main thing. It's Dreadpool. Dreadpool's a good friend. He's known him for quite a few years. He's also appeared on the Stubbs cast previously. He has one of the longest Stubbs casts in history, but John Place overtook you by Techno Fabulous by about 10 minutes.
That's funny.
He did. It literally is funny because at the end he says to me, "What? How long we've been going?" I was like 3 hours or something. He's like, "Can we stay talking for about 10 more minutes?" I thought, "All right, and why's that?" Well, I've got to beat Dreadpool, isn't I?
That's funny.
So I do not do Stubbscast that long anymore. I can't be bothered. It's nice talking, but I can't do it. It has to be with the right person as well. With Dreadpool, it's so easy to go that long, but it depends who you're talking to, really. Sometimes lasts an hour and a half, but I prefer an hour to an hour and a half these days. I do, to be honest.
I've done a couple 3 hour or more podcasts, and unless you got like a really awesome conversation going, after about hour two, it could start really drawing on, and you're just like, okay, we gotta kind of
Yeah,
cap this
it's
off.
not. The problem is though, it's like when people are watching back on YouTube or podcast feeds, uh, people don't like to listen to podcasts that are like 3 hours plus. Back the sweet spot is like people love to listen to like hour to hour and a half, maybe two. your numbers start. You know what I mean? It can affect your retention and stuff like that. It can. Podcasting games are weird. It is. There's thousands of them, thousands and thousands of podcasts. And actually, if you're on podcast feeds, Apple, Spotify, God, Good Pods, any way you find them, please give us a 5-star rating and give us a follow. Be much appreciated. But yeah, it's been 2 weeks, and we've actually done it 2 weeks later. The show, it's not took a break again.
I know we're getting into that consistency thing.
I know. Well, Sonic game I want to bring up is Sonic Frontiers, a game I do have. I won it in a competition. Shouts to the Sega Guys podcast. I need to play it more. I did pick it up, and then
how much time you got in it?
Not a lot. But it's a fun game.
See, I've been dancing around getting it, but lately with my backlog, I'm like, do I buy the game and throw it in the backlog, or do I just wait until I'm ready to play it? And by that time, it's going to be even cheaper.
I'd wait. I mean, there's an article basically because I'm bringing it up, but because basically the meta scores on all platforms were from like 69 to 75. But what the main point of the article was that Sonic Frontiers has exceeded expectations, which is great because basically I actually thought that game I was one to laugh at it because the IGN demo, that IGN first demo, whatever they call them, it looked like a bland open world crapness, but it was actually quite a fun game. It exceeded their expectations. Obviously, it doesn't exactly tell you how many of these sold, but it exceeded expectations because I don't think that they thought it was going to sell very well. But thing is, Sonic's got back into pop culture now. It's got movies, it's got TV shows, I think. It's got all the toys out. There's all sorts now. And there's a game. There's Sonic Origins. It's getting back into pop culture. To be honest, it is. So it's a good thing to see. It still won't beat, the original Sonic on the Mega Drive, which I still like. Do you remember Sonic 1?
I remember Sonic. I didn't have I didn't own a Sega. I owned a Nintendo, but I would go across the street to a friend's house and play Sonic over there. And that's where, I think that's why Sonic got so big, was because at the time that was the way it worked, was, to really, that's where everybody here remember those times where, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to piss some people off saying this, but that was when exclusives really mattered, because the companies who are making these game consoles had to make relevant software, because there wasn't very many third-party companies. Because let's just face it, the idea of, I'm going to make a product that is used on someone else's product, and to try to make a living doing that, especially when gaming was a very small niche market back then. And that's where, everybody was competing for your dollar. We had, we had Sega versus Nintendo, at least.
Yeah,
those
Sonic,
were the big two, and Sonic was their answer to Mario.
It was, but it was also it was the colors that popped out of the screen. There was loads of colors, and they couldn't work out how they did it. Yeah,
and the speed, because everybody was used to playing as Mario, this dude that would like shimmy around on the screen, jump, block, stuff like that. But with Sonic, it was that idea that you could rev the character up and just zoom across the screen, and the colors, and just all the eye-popping eye candy. And definitely that's what really freaking put Sonic on the map. And if, in my opinion, I just feel like, Sonic also had a better story. Like, I enjoyed my Nintendo, but I was always playing other different Nintendo games. I was never the big Mario fan, because it was just like almost like the same old, like, oh, the princess got kidnapped by Bowser again. Here we go.
yeah. But yeah, it seems to have come back to back into pop culture. It seems to be popular again. It's a good thing for Sega because Sega's obviously, Japanese, and they're doing all right again because they're just actually, speaking of Sega, um, they've just announced they're going to give their developers 15% pay rise, which is good because, in general, from what I've gathered, Japanese developers are paid higher um, than a lot of the Western developers. It's like I believe with Square Enix, the reason that they always say that their sales figures are, not what they expected, etc., is because with Square, I do believe that they pay for the top talent and they pay a premium under where the Square Enix headquarters are. It's in a very, let's say, lucrative part of Japan where its rates are high and they pay for the best talent possible. So they need to sell as many games as possible. So that's why they always go, well, this game didn't do as well as we expected, and that's why. But maybe if they made their games
I
multi-platform, it would help, wouldn't it?
I forget who I was chatting with last night.
Yeah.
I think we had this big old discussion after TXR. After the show ended, we sat around and chatted for another
Oh,
hour and a half.
really?
Oh God, yeah.
Gone live again.
I know, right? And so one of the discussions we had was Square Enix, and honestly, I get what they're saying, that there's been some financial failures. But one of the things that I've noticed with Square Enix is sometimes they bite off more than they can chew. The two Marvel games, let's just be blunt. Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers. We all know when you buy into a franchise like that, the licensing for those games can be
Yeah,
absolutely astronomical. I mean, look at what
that's what they
happened.
like. They can really.
Yeah, look at what happened in Telltale Games.
Yeah.
They basically made literally they almost shot themselves in the foot because they built a business model around creating games for big franchises, but the only problem is these big franchises have these licensing fees that can get very astronomical. And
They
so
can.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm wondering, I understand the developers are being paid quite well, but also at the same time, it's interesting that some of these titles that they're calling financial failures also had these huge licensing fees behind them. So it's okay, well, do you think it would have been a financial failure if you would have made a game like Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was a completely different, it was an offshoot. It had nothing to do with Marvel. It was a group of random characters that would fly around the galaxy to these places, and basically the whole concept. But it wasn't a Marvel game. Would it still be a financial failure because you didn't have that
Oh,
giant check you had to write just to have the word Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy on the damn box?
or they could have just made it a free-to-play game to start with. That would have been better because at least
Well,
everyone could have tried it. Do you know what I mean?
maybe the free to play isn't
But then again,
one.
you're right. You got a hefty price tag to do a free-to-play Marvel game. With, you know what I mean? With you
Right.
know,
And right now, the one who made freaking the game that I am thinking of right now. There it is. Midnight Suns. Who the hell did Midnight Suns?
Midnight. I don't know. I've not played that. I know. I'm sure you have. You said you were playing it last time. Was it you? Yes. Was it? Yeah. You've been playing it, haven't you?
Developed by Firaxis Games. Yeah, Firaxis. I know it was done by the developer who did what's it called? XCOM. And they
Oh,
use
really?
that XCOM style of gameplay with at least with cards and stuff like that. But who did it? I think it was frickin' 2K that frickin' flipped the bill for the yeah, it was published by 2K. And 2K came out and called it a financial oh my god, a commercial failure. That's
Yeah.
what
Well,
their words were, commercial
Hogwarts
failure.
the 2K. They're a company they're a company that owns GTA 5.
Yeah.
No, am I wrong? Yeah, the 2K do. Yeah, don't they?
What
They own
2K
Rockstar.
Rockstar Games. Yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah,
Rockstar
they do.
Games is a subsidiary of 2K.
Anything anything's going to be a failure if that's what they were using to compare it to.
Well,
I don't know.
that, yeah, but I think what it was I think they shelled out a lot of money for that Marvel license. And that was during the discussion last night. That Marvel license probably cost them a pretty penny. And then the game obviously didn't have a whole lot of head turning when it came out in the beginning of December of last year. Even I held off on buying the game. And I had somebody give it to me for Christmas. And I'm actually happy with the game. And I'm glad I got the season pass version. And I'm glad that I got to play as Deadpool already. They got Venom getting ready to come out. And the fun part is Venom has a main story in
Really?
the game itself, and the season pass is going to actually continue Venom's story after he got concluded through the story of the main campaign. Now they're bringing him back, and this time as a playable character. um and I mean, there was a very good story underneath Marvel Midnight Suns. I mean, you got to literally have a Marvel game with Wolverine, Blade, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Captain America. There was some big the Hulk was in there, the Scarlet Witch. You had all these
Loads.
different characters. They also introduced some new characters to kind of freshen it up a little bit. You had one chick that was actually an X-Men, but she was actually the sister of Colossus. And so she helped kind of, create one of the new characters, and Wolverine kind of gave her some validity as a character because he talked about how she was when she was at Xavier school. Then you also had another character who was a spirit of vengeance. You see, when you see Ghost Rider, everybody associates Ghost Rider with Johnny Blaze, but that's the fun part. Technically, the Ghost Rider is not a specific person. Just Johnny Blaze was the main guy that everybody got used to being Ghost Rider. But technically, the spirit of vengeance is something that's bestowed upon you by making a deal with the devil. And this guy obviously made his own deal, and he's basically a kid in his 20s that's a spirit of vengeance, and he actually looks up to Johnny Blaze. And that's where all of these characters have their underlying stories. They give a lot of when you talk to Spider-Man, everybody always associated Venom with the cartoon of Spider-Man, where Venom came down on the space shuttle and he was an alien that hitchhiked a ride when the space shuttle crashed, and he came to the planet and he ended up on the Earth by accident. But if we go into comic book lore, Spider-Man actually won Venom by competing on another planet in some kind of competition, or it was basically awarded to him as a symbiote.
Yeah.
And the funny part is in Marvel Midnight Suns, they actually pulled more from the comic book side of the lore than they did the movie side of the lore. And that was what was really cool. You actually heard Spider-Man talking about Venom and how he actually had this connection with them, and he was awarded to him. And I was just like, man, freaking these guys use the comic books as reference. And it was actually a very good game, and it really stinks that it was considered a commercial failure because they had to fork out all this money to have all these named characters and the word Marvel in the beginning.
Yeah, it's these high license fee game. It's like when everyone says it's risky. It's risky getting big licensed IPs because obviously for PlayStation's the Spider-Man situation really works well, but for any company new to it, it's a very high risk because you might pay out all this money and then it just flops. People ain't interested. It's very high risk.
I really don't think PlayStation has a whole lot of risk in licensing because they actually own a portion of the Spider-Man character. I mean, I know the Spider-Man character is actually owned under Sony Pictures, and PlayStation takes a good advantage of that.
Oh,
but
yeah,
they don't just flat out.
I think it's licensed because the minute they stop making the movies, it defaults back to Sony.
No, you mean Disney?
Disney. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Right, and if Sony ever sell hypothetically one day, 100, 200 years into the future, we'll just say that if Sony ever sells the company to someone else, like an Amazon,
Yeah,
it's also in the contract that Spider-Man reverts back to Disney. Basically, whoever gets Sony, if Sony ever sells, will not have Spider-Man as part of that portfolio. It
that's
goes
true.
right back to Disney.
Disney would love
Um,
it back anyway, but
right.
then they can't. I think.
But I would say with Wolverine, this is their first venture on basically, looking outside of their own house and the IPs that they technically have under their belt. The one caveat to that is I really think they got Wolverine for probably a very I want to say sweet deal
Yeah, I imagine
because
so. Yeah,
um Disney, for starters, is trying to reboot the whole X-Men franchise because of what Fox did. I don't have any big issues with what Fox did. I know a lot of people didn't like the what towards the end, how Fox was just taking so many liberties with the X-Men franchise. But at least with Disney wanting to reboot it, they're wanting to obviously create hype again for the X-Men. They also I just feel like they were probably cut a very good deal to do this Wolverine game, purely because it's time to blow the dust off this franchise. And I think it's going to start with getting a good game and a couple of movies, and depending on how the franchise does in theaters, maybe the next time around Sony wants to do the Wolverine 2, if that ever happens, the licensing fees could potentially be more because the fact that now there's a lot more hype and value behind that franchise.
yeah, I would agree with that. It's makes sense because it's like yeah, because they seem to make very good games. Insomniac Games is one of the industry's greatest studios, especially when it comes to making comic book games. I think Wolverine will be very good. I think though it look very. I'm not going to say what most people say, but it's not going to use the same assets as Spider Man.
Oh no, it's not.
But I would say it would look artistic wise. It would. I think it looked very similar to that. The art style, sorry, not the
Right.
art. Yeah,
Well, we saw with Sunset Overdrive, we all knew that Insomniac Games had a way of crafting games that were really fun, colorful, the art style, the mechanics. I mean, there's a reason why Insomniac has the pedigree that they do. And come on now, like in playing Sunset Overdrive, you knew that if that game was, I don't want to use the term reskinned, but if you took that art style and the design of the game mechanics and applied it to a comic book character, you would know you had a home run. And as soon as it came up, probably when discussing with Sony and saying, hey, we would like to have a stab at doing a licensed game with Spider-Man, and we want to apply what we did with Sunset Overdrive to it and really make an awesome comic book based experience. And come on, I mean,
exactly.
they were the
Yeah,
perfect company for doing something like this because they had a good know-how of how to make a game that would work like that.
yeah, that's definitely. I definitely agree with that because, um, yeah, they've got a good pedigree, and it's one of the biggest steals in history.
Right.
Uh,
And that's why
the price they got now, back then, if they were to be like acquired with what they've done now, would range in the billions. I don't even think Sony
Sony
themselves
got a good deal.
could afford. Oh no, they did.
Oh yeah, they got
But technically speaking, Insomniac Games doesn't have them IPs. Do you know what I mean? They're Sony's IPs, but they would still be worth a substantial amount. If they were to purchase them now, it wouldn't be millions; it would be in the billions range.
Oh yeah, and
It
that's
would be.
where, like, this is probably where some people are like, me being an Xbox fan, but that's where I'm actually a fan of gaming. So like that, I play everything. when like everybody getting mad at, stuff, like I did say, there's a reason why, when it comes to like, this is why I don't put too much stock into when game developers or publishers come out and say, hey, this next big game that you're all wanting, it comes out on this day. And I generally will not pre-order the game until like the month of
So I
that
tell
is,
you,
because I mean, like, dude, I don't want to deal with delays. I don't want to deal with my money being wrapped up in something that's a what if or a maybe.
I'll tell you something
Uh,
now.
but
Shout
when
out,
it,
sorry,
huh?
I'll tell you something now about pre-ordering. Shout outs to Mass Mayhem UK. When this man pre-orders anything, it will go to pot. He pre-ordered Anthem. Look what happened. He has he doesn't pre-order things. He's afraid. Every time he picks to pre-order, something goes wrong. So he just waits till the games come out now. He
Right.
does not pre-order.
But
It's bad
what
luck.
I was getting at with that whole situation is when
Yeah.
a company like when Insomniac comes out and says, oh, I don't know if you heard that. So when a company like Insomniac comes out and says, "Hey, we're dropping a game fall of 2023," you can bet your freaking bottom dollar that that game is going to come out around fall of 2023. They are one of the few publishers that I would honestly sit back and trust and say that. Um, I mean, I
Yeah.
think the last publisher that I really trusted on that level was CD Project Red, and we all saw what happened with that
We
situation.
did. There is another developer that you
Yeah,
can.
I remember I actually pre-ordered my copy, and I even gave you a copy, and like we
Yeah,
were already, it was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun, and then it turned into a complete crap show.
there's another company you can trust. Team Cherry. They're making Hollow Knight Silk Song. Now,
Well, see, now the indie developers have their game on lock, pretty thing, and I'm saying like their game is like what they do, not the game they're working on.
because the Hollow Knight Silk Song, look, this is what people don't realise. I mean, you may not notice this, but do you remember the show when they showed off Hollow Knight Silk Song, and then proceeded to say it will be the next 12 months, and it's coming day and date on Game Pass? Well, if you go through all the videos at a time, even the so-called big banger AAAs from Xbox, Hollow Knight Silk Song had the most views. It crushed all the other games, and it still does. If you go on there, it's in the millions. The views are. Silk's Hollow Knight's got a major community, millions, and they love it. But all these big games, they were showing off Starfield and all these clips, and then each video, if you went through them, Hollow Knight was the one that had the most views, and it's what they called. My good friend Indie Gamer is a big fan of Team Cherry with Hollow Knight, and it's dubbed the indie darling of the indie community. It's like basically they're kind of like the rock stars of the indie world. Their games are, and they have been making it for a very very long time, but they will, when they're ready, you'll get an announcement and they will release it. When they lock a date in, they lock a date in. That's it.
Oh yeah, these indie developers have to do that because they don't have these big pedigrees or these huge budgets or these big celebrities that are like that are hyping their game and stuff like that. They really got to come through and hold themselves to a higher standard. For me, when I say like, the whole idea of like mistrust, it's honestly from these bigger companies, and
It's
I'm
hard
gonna.
though now on these AAAs because it seems to be getting harder and harder for these big AAA dev budgets, etc., and they're getting bigger and bigger to actually deliver on what they actually said they were going to do.
Well, like,
It's really difficult now. I don't know
oh
why,
yeah,
but it is.
like
I'm not in that world, but
like we've seen the trouble with Square Enix,
yeah,
with Babylon's Fall and a couple of I mean, I feel bad for anybody who got into Babylon's Fall and they completely canned that game, shut it down. Like, hey, thanks for your money.
right.
Um,
It just proves to you that you've now that when you buy a game, you're not actually buying a game. It's like you're buying a license, and I would argue it's good to purchase the game properly, but sometimes, say you have Game Pass, and say you buy Starfield, and you have Game Pass, your rights to the game. Oh no, sorry, I'll use Redfall as an example. Then, Redfall. Say you buy Redfall, and you think you own it, and if you just have Game Pass and have Redfall, it's the same thing, because if they shut them servers down or they revoke the game, that's it. People are starting to understand this more and more recently, especially with the Crossfire X demo, not demo game. Sorry, with the campaign, they've pulled the campaign too. So it's just
the campaign was tied to the online.
Oh, but Gears 5 is. Gears 5's campaign, it's tied to the servers. That's wrong, I think, but I mean, Gears 5, you should be able to play the campaign, but do you remember at launch, we had all the problems with Gears 5 campaign? It was because they tied the game to the servers. I don't think you should tie if it's Destiny, yeah, that's fair enough, but you should have a way, or I'm not a developer, I'm not going to claim to know, but I think a game like Gears 5, if they would have to take the Gears 5 servers down, I don't think you could play the Gears 5 campaign. Do you know what I mean? It's not good, but the live service games will always go, but I don't think you should ever pull campaigns down. But there's probably no way of delinking it without it's more complex than it seems, probably.
I see, that's where, like, Elise was saying on a single player experience, like a game like Crossfire, see, that's where it gets it's hard for me to really say that, like, that you should always have access to the single player campaign.
Well,
I just feel that the developer and the publisher should be very forthcoming on letting people know when a campaign is tied to a system like that. Yeah. So that way people can make the informed decision of, do I want to invest my money into something where that could happen? Because, like, I mean, with me, Elder Scrolls Online, I have put a lot of time and money into that game. And do I have this assumption that Elder Scrolls Online is going to still be functioning 50 years from now? I couldn't put that. I mean, I couldn't really make that assumption. I have to assume that, one day the servers could shut down for Elder Scrolls Online. And, that could actually happen in the next 10 years when they decide to try to make Elder Scrolls Online too.
Yeah, it could happen. You are right with that kind of game, but yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, I never played Crossfire X. I didn't even bother, but I know it's annoyed a lot of people. But you'll find, though, the people that are annoyed about it haven't actually got the game. That's quite often the case, isn't it? It is.
Right.
It is. I never actually tried it. I just seen. I don't know. I tried the multiplayer because the multiplayer was in Game Pass and the campaign wasn't. I didn't really like it. And again, these days, I don't play that many shooting games apart from sometimes Gears 5, which seems to be every day at the minute. It's mainly to get these points. It is. But yeah. But no, it's live service is becoming a bit crazy because there's been loads shut down recently, hasn't there? Big long list of them. There has. But it's mainly the live service games that were done wrong. And obviously, if you're doing well, you're not shutting down. It's the games that fail to capture an audience. It's hard to capture an audience when you've got games like Apex Legends that are absolutely killing it. You've got Fortnite that's killing it. You've got COD Warzone. You've got all these big games that know what they're doing. Why would somebody switch from the game they like and the game to your new game where you haven't got the content drive? Because, you know what I mean? It's high reward, high risk. If it pays off big. But it's difficult to get into that game unless you've got loads of money, unless you're willing to lose a lot of money, and a lot of companies have. But that's a sacrifice they take with these live service. It's risky. It's like Destiny 2. They're still going, but I can't imagine that if Destiny 2 was made, well, basically, if Destiny was made now, Destiny would be dead in the water, big time.
Yes.
Because that they were afforded the mistakes for years because of backing from Activision, etc. But if that was today's standards, that would have been dropped in a heartbeat. You wouldn't have got to number 2. You wouldn't have done. But but if that game launched now, it'd be dead. But it didn't, obviously, a long time ago now. But live service games, they're not given the financial. They're not given long enough, basically, to see if they pay off. It's a difficult ball game to be in live service. It's like with Halo Infinite, obviously they've had a lot of learning curves and mistakes and areas that they seem to be working on now. I try not to be too negative for Halo Infinite because I do listen to Ains and a lot of people that are well knowledged in Halo Infinite, and they are hopeful things are going to get better. But from what I gather, if you play the game, the best place to play is something called the Forge mode bit. That's the best place, and the rotating maps. Apparently, that's the best place to play. But then again, you got to look at it. That's a community providing the content, not them. It is. Which I would love future Gears games to have a Forge-like mode, but they did try this. They tried a new mode in Gears 5 called Escape. Wasn't very successful, but it did have a build mode where you could build all your own maps, etc. It never took off either. But if they had a Forge-like mode where people could build their own maps in versus Horde mode, whatever they wanted, the community would go wild with that. They would love it. So if that was in Gears 6 or whatever the next game, because although there's all rumours about all hands are on deck for Gears 6, nobody actually knows what the name of the game's called. They could try, hopefully they don't, they could try a Gears like Infinite style game, which I hope they don't. They could try that. They could. But I think Forge mode in a Gears game would be incredible. I do.
I think with the trips and stumbles with Halo Infinite, they're probably not going to be as eccentric with a games as a service style game. Halo has a much larger multiplayer base than.
I'll give you that. It does, because if you go and play Halo Infinite online, every so often I do, and it's within less than a minute or half a minute, you get in a game. Go try that with Gears 5. I'll challenge you to do that. You'll notice it doesn't. Depends if you're on at the right time of day. But yeah, it's got a big player base. Halo is. I won't downplay Halo. It's a big IP. I do think they can rescue Halo in the end. They will rescue it. It will end up being the top tier experience in the end. It will, because they've invested too much money to let it fail. Now they have. I don't know exactly how much money, but I'd imagine it's bigger budgets than what Gears get given. But then again, Coalition, I don't think need as many resources. They're a much more capable studio, if you ask me. You could give them half the budget, and they could probably come up with something amazing. But they are the Unreal 5 engine masters. They really are. There's an Unreal show coming up soon by Epic, and it is believed. You can believe what you want. There's a rumor that they're going to show a snippet of the next Gears game at the event. It's not an Xbox event, it's an Unreal event. Because do you remember a while ago they showed off a demo and the soldiers in it looked like Gears soldiers?
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, and everyone basically, even I thought it was Gears 6. And it very well could have been, but they didn't tell you that, did they? The suits look different. But it very well could have been. But Coalition are a very capable studio, and they could make a new IP and be successful. They could. I don't want them to leave Gears, mind. You know what I mean? But they're very capable. They are. But yeah, getting back to live service, it's just obviously you're in a live service game. You're ESO. They know that they know what they're doing. They're growing a base and growing year on year, aren't they? Revenue's growing, and that's how you do it.
They started off making roughly around, I think it was like a $1 or $2 million a year, and now they're like grown last year alone. They made over like $14 million. Now, I also understand that there's games out there that make like hundreds of millions of dollars, but
Still growing though. Still growing.
like, but I mean, when you want to talk about growing, look at how many employees they've hired. They have a higher employee headcount than when they first started. So that shows growth right there. Is you're hiring people and you're retaining them. You're not just like getting rid of them very quickly.
Exactly. It's I know it's not in Fortnite money, but like even on Microsoft's books, they're like, yeah, we're happy with this game. It's growing. It's making more money year on year. They're growing it. They're growing the base. It looks good on the books, doesn't it? It does, and it's still classed as successful. I know many people might not think it's not in Fortnite's league, but it's still making money. It's profitable and it's growing. That's what you need from a live service game. Everyone thinks they're going to get that Fortnite money.
Oh, I know. I hate the whole freaking.
That's what they aim for. They all aim for that. Knock Fortnite off. I don't think anything's not. I don't think anything. I'm not sure anything will ever knock it off, but I think Apex Legends a close second. Yes, I just wish they'd make Titanfall 3. They were rumored to be making something on that, weren't they? That
Who?
right? They were rumored to be making something within the Apex Legends universe that resembled Titanfall 3, weren't they?
Oh yeah, they were trying to do something like that, and now apparently they're not even gonna try to chase that Titanfall thing at all.
They should, because Apex Legends make that much money. Apex Legends could probably fund the bugger. Do you know what I mean? But this is, because it really is just, yeah, it would be nice to have Titanfall 3. It would, but they got that studio very well. They got that studio, if you ask me, very underhandedly. They got acquired that studio because, and just saying, in my opinion, in my view, allegedly, etc. They were the EA were the publishers of Titanfall 2. They didn't own Respawn at the time at all. They were the publishers, so they dictated when that game came out. They sandwiched it between Call of Duty and Battlefield, knowing it would fail, and it did fail. It was a great game, sales-wise, it failed. Why did they want it to fail? Well, if your game fails, you can be acquired for a much cheaper price.
So
that's what they did. That's a theory, everyone. If listening back, that's my theory. Probably not true, but it's what it looks to me. That's what happened.
So right here, September of last year, Benji Sales actually tweeted something out. And it's like a lot of people don't realize it, but yeah, The Elder Scrolls Online has been in the top 100 global highest revenue games on Steam for 400 weeks in a row without leaving. It hasn't left the top 100 in 7.5 years. And that's what, and I mean, like literally, this game is like considered like one of the biggest MMOs out there right now, because I mean, at least it's stable. And with games as a service, that's the problem, is like you said, that Fortnite money. Everybody's trying to like, and that's what I mean. Like, unless you honestly at this point can create something that is completely original, out of left field idea that everybody needs to play, it's like everybody has already made their decision on where they're going to have their, because unless you're an absolute crazy person, and I say that respectfully, but you can't juggle like multiple games as a service. You can't, like, I'm not gonna see, I don't see many people that are like, oh yeah, I'm playing Destiny and I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online and I'm playing this.
Destiny, like, normally what happens with Destiny is people go back for the expansions and leave again. That's what happens a lot.
That's what I do every once in a while, but I'm talking like the diehard people who that really enjoy games as a service and don't have an issue with it. They're not playing multiple different games as a service. They have their one games as a service that they play, that they go back to consistently. And then they have the other games that they play when they're taking a break from that or just wanting to play something different, but they're not out starting a whole nother games as a service title.
Exactly. It's true. It's one that takes, like live service is a hard ball game. It is.
Well, I honestly think we're probably going to see less and less games as a service
I
being
think
produced because
I think we're
say
going
what
to
you were going to
see.
say.
So I think we are seeing a return to these big mouth companies that obviously likes of Ubisoft and these big mouths saying, "Oh, single player's dead. Live
Single
service
player
is
is
the
dead.
future."
Games as a service is the way of the future, and
I
they're
think
definitely doing some backstepping on that.
they're all reverting back to making single player games. A lot of them are, or trying to add elements of live service in the multiplayer section of single player games.
Right.
But
And we've seen last year we saw how well Elden Ring did.
yes,
And Elden Ring did so well that game, like, it was released, I believe. I think it was released around this time last year. I think it was March.
I don't know. I know it took the world by storm, big time. It did. In the gaming world, it sold massively. It did.
See here, release date. So February 25th. So
See,
we are
that there is incredible, because I tell you why. Because most games, they say, that has the Game Awards, obviously, most games that get released at the start of the year suffer recency bias, so get ignored. But that game was an exception to the recency bias. That game was
exactly.
that good that it won. So it
Yeah,
just shows
the
you
hype for
can.
that game stayed strong all the way from the end of February to the end of to the beginning of December when the award show happened.
Exactly, and they won it.
And then
Is that correct? They did win it, yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy actually is starting to actually pull away. I think Hogwarts Legacy actually sold more than
Yeah, they're back in big numbers, but like somebody told me that on the consoles, they reckon PlayStation sold more copies. But then I went to find where this data was, and
oh my god.
there isn't no data on it
So
because
that's my new video that will be popping up
yeah,
tomorrow or the next day because I've
digital.
already
It's hard to stats unless Warner Brother comes out and says this is what we sold. PlayStation, Xbox don't actually normally release sales stats. I mean, obviously, PlayStation did release their sales stats on God of War Ragnarok, but that was only after a certain time period, and but that's only on one or two consoles, PS4, PS5. But in general, games don't release digital stats normally. They don't.
So they're saying that Hogwarts Legacy sales were 80% higher than Elden Ring.
Wow,
But
that's
that's just skimming, looking at an article. So I don't really know exactly what they're trying to say on that. But
because Benji Sales did predict big numbers for this game, though. He was blown away by the Steam numbers alone.
Okay, so here it is. By game industry biz calculations, Hogwarts Legacy pushed a whopping 80% more physical copies than Elden Ring. And that's where I get so frustrated at this whole stupid thing. Every time, like, no offense, man, but every time the UK sales charts come out, it's like we're over here discussing physical game sales.
Yeah, but thank you for saying that, because I'm sick of it. Like, because someone to say, like, America's one of the biggest gaming markets in the world. We are the UK. We have a rough population of probably 60 million plus people. There's not 60 million people gaming. When they sell their games, you'll find when you read these actual numbers, it's probably 50,000 for the week, 20,000. The numbers ain't high. Okay. I believe in the UK. I can't prove it, mind. We're probably 80% digital now. Even my dad buys digital on his PlayStation now. Sometimes he gets a disc, depends. But he is willing to buy downloads now. I think he got he's got Ragnarok on disc because he asked me if I wanted to borrow it. I said I've not completed the first one, so there's no point.
Let's have some fun. So,
but yeah, here we go. They have to bring up the UK sales chart.
Oh, I know, but this
a
is
lot of
where it's going to
Americans
get
do.
fun.
But it's a
Oh
bit.
no, this is this is also other places too.
Really,
Though, but
we're a dot, mate, on the map.
Oh, dude, you should wait till you see my video come out. I'm gonna have some fun with it, but and that's a shameless plug, I guess you call it.
Yeah, do it, mate.
And so this is where it gets funny. So we all saw Dual Shockers this last week. Dual Shockers, PlayStation centric. 82% of 82% of Hogwarts Legacy sales were PlayStation, 18% Xbox.
Oh,
well, and like, oh my God, no one buys games on Xbox, and then we don't got data for digital sales yet. You stupid mother. And
it's
that
annoying.
But let's go back. Let's see. So that was so here we are. This was last week. So 2023 last week. Let's rewind the clock back to January 10th of this year. Dual Shockers. Video game sales in the UK were 90% digital in 2022.
There you go.
So, oh my God, Dual Shockers, you acknowledge that most of the sales are freaking digital anyways, but no, let's over here and just run with this ball that somehow Xbox gamers don't fucking buy games. And excuse my French, I didn't mean to cuss on your channel.
I'm not bothered. You know, I know exactly where this person got it from now. That's probably
but here's and obviously Game Industry Biz wrote decided to go down this rabbit hole too, like 82% of games sold. But the funny part is the individual who wrote that article for gamesindustry.biz last week about how apparently and he admitted, like, we don't got digital sales yet, and we all know Xbox has a more, and he tries to sit there and be like, well, the reason why digital is more popular on Xbox is because of the Series S. And it's like, dude, shut the hell up, man. Freaking Xbox has actually done amazing work in getting people to feel comfortable in making digital purchases.
They have.
And the funny part is, though, the same individual who wrote the article for GameIndustry.biz, April of last year, I've got his tweet right here on my screen. You'll be able to check it out on the video. Some interesting stats here. Xbox's strength in digital is on full display, with 41% of Lego Star Wars digital sales coming on Xbox versus 34% on PlayStation. So 7% more consumers were willing to buy the digital version of Lego Star Wars on Xbox than they were PlayStation. And then he goes to let out the overall stats of the game on total sales, where obviously PlayStation has the bigger install base. So yes, PlayStation's going to have the bigger number, but 39% of sales were on PlayStation, where 34% of sales were on Xbox. There was only a 5% difference of total sales between the two consoles, but apparently Xbox gamers don't buy games.
Yeah, they like to say that, but yeah, no, you're right there with the numbers. It's like, I think, God's sake, why do I always have to bring my country up? We're a little dot. We only are. You got America's massive, like you got like some population is probably like something like 350 million plus. So I mean, some of your states is probably half of our.
Oh, dude,
one of your states is probably half of our country.
No, dude, I went and pulled up a map to really hammer it home for people to, like, hey, here's the United States and here's the UK, smack dab in the middle of the United States. You guys are two states, maybe three, and that's being very giving. I mean, like, you guys literally
UK. Yeah. See, so that's Scotland, Ireland, Wales, a lot. That's how tiny we are, you see.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I actually went for the entire UK, and I'm like, okay, so we're using like literally a country that's the size of maybe 3 states in the United States.
Though, but the UK, the whole of the UK isn't the UK. If you get to Ireland, the southern half of the island is actually in the EU. Yeah, it's weird. It's in the EU. It's not in the UK. It's not a part of the UK, but physically it is. But politically, etc., Southern Ireland's in the EU. It is. They kept voting, basically doing referendums until the people gave up and just voted to go into the EU. They got their wish. But yeah,
I remember that, the whole Brexit thing.
No, this was something different. I know. We had
Oh,
one vote.
this was up in
Ireland.
this was up in the Ireland side, not in the Britain side. Okay.
Southern Ireland. That they had loads of referendums till in the end they got what they wanted. No, the Brexit vote was one vote. Well, let's not get into politics anyway.
I know, but dude, I mean, like, honestly, sometimes when you discuss gaming, the gaming media, it almost feels political.
It's like they always bring up UK. I was like, you lot don't realise what a dot we are. Why does it matter?
Oh, dude, I also want to know why the hell does it, like, if you're going to be out here touting numbers, at least have all the numbers. That would, like, I mean, like, oh my God, like, really, could you imagine a car commercial of it coming out and, like, I don't know what brands you really have, but we'll just take Mercedes because I know they're German built. Like, so could you imagine if Mercedes came out and was like, oh yeah, we sold 1 million units in the UK?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, how popular is your car worldwide? Does that really talk about, like, just because you sold 1 million units in the UK, does that mean how many units have you sold in the US? How about other countries like, Japan, China, because I know they're a popular car. Let's be realistic here. I mean, hell, there's Mercedes in Africa. Like, are we talking? It's not a good gauge, other than that's the UK physical sales charts are only good for one thing: UK physical sales. They can't be used to predict anything else. But for some reason, we have people over here trying to jump through hoops. We saw, I'm almost like, I hate mentioning his name, but we saw Twitter favorite Take Him running with that as well. Out there on his Twitter feed, like, 18% of Xbox gamers only bought Hogwarts. And it's like, dude, those are physical. It's like, if you're going to be somebody who's going to tout something like that, at least put the word physical in there. It's like you're almost trying to be misleading to basically get clout.
Exactly. No, you're right. It's annoying. It's one thing that's bugged me for a long time. Always bring up the bloody UK. Don't go to the American sales chart, which actually would actually be better because you've got a much larger country. You know what I mean? We're like a dot, we are. But yeah, it's crazy. It's annoying. Always bring up the UK, a tiny dot.
Dude, I don't know what I would.
The problem is the way they talk about it. You'd think we are a big gaming market, but we're not. If you look on the top gaming markets, it's like America, China, Japan, all them. It's not us. It's not. It's just that we get brought up a lot because the old ABK crap.
Well, I also think you guys do a better job of probably declaring stuff. Like, out here in the United States, a lot of companies nowadays are very reluctant to disclose stuff. And I think everybody goes running to the UK sales charts because, like, your country is so small economically. And I don't say that disrespectfully. No, I'm just saying, like, because you guys are so small economically, it's easier to keep track of that stuff. And it's easier to get these hardened numbers than it is when you're dealing with billions and billions of people. And I don't know what I would do if I was at my job and one of my distributors came in with the UK sales chart trying to convince me that he has a viable product because of what happened in England. And I'm going to be like, what?
Exactly. Welcome to A Friendly Pest. I hope you're enjoying your new PC with your VR. Mate, he's upgraded. He got a 4090, his PC. Seriously upgraded his quality of his videos, his VR videos. He's really pleased with it. I'm pleased to see your new videos. You've got very high quality now, much higher than before. It's opened so many doors for him as VR wise. Good guy, A Friendly Pest. But yeah, no, UK sales chart.
I know you probably hate hearing that word.
We're number one in the world.
You just know, yeah, right. You just know how the discussion is going to go when you hear somebody start with the sentence with the UK sales charts. It's like, oh God, here we go again. Here we go.
All the time you see it on UK sales chart. Bring up UK. But then, like, same people, like, they bring up UK sales chart, but then go, oh, well, when the ABK deal, UK is irrelevant. Let's just cut UK off. Well, they were relevant before when you bring up the damn sales chart. They're not now, are they?
See that?
You know.
I love how just like everybody like, oh, they could just stop selling in the UK.
The problem is,
dude, like, what are they going to do? Shut down Windows? That's not how it works.
The problem is, what a lot of people don't realise is the actual contract to this ABK deal actually, and it's not a stipulation by any regulators at all. Microsoft wrote the contract for the sale, to buy Activision. And in the filing on the contract, it states we must pass the FTC, CMA, and the EU. Microsoft put that in. It wasn't regulators. So if one of them does a full block and they can't get round it with concessions, the deal's over. It's finished. You know what I mean? That's the problem.
That's where we're starting to have this big discussion, and I'm not trying to interrupt. It was just here's the discussion. Could you see we're about to find, because here's the funny part. When we have listened to Phil Spencer and a lot of the Microsoft executives, they have actually said this is more about Blizzard King. I mean, not Blizzard King, about King, because they want to get into the mobile market. And by getting a hold of King, that would basically facilitate them into getting into the mobile market a lot quicker and a lot easier.
That's true.
And that's where we're about to see Microsoft put their money where their mouth is.
Let's see if Microsoft will do it and sell off.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are we going to see, like, could we see Microsoft purchase Blizzard King and divest Activision and just be like, all right, fine, we'll get rid of it. We don't need Call of Duty. It's too much freaking trouble.
Because Luke Steele went on Boom Show about that, and he was talking about that, and because like there was people like TK Asante, Everborn Saga, etc., all asking Luke questions about it and all that, because Luke doesn't know the future, what's going to happen, but he was saying about
Luke did one show with us, and the whole world found out he's a UK acquisitions lawyer, and they're like, "Oh, we need to talk to him."
Yeah, it was me that actually first suggested to Boom, why didn't you get Luke on? He's an M&A lawyer. Oh, and in the end, he invites him on every time now. But what Luke tried to get across to everyone was that, like, you ever heard of behavioural remedies like contracts?
Right.
Right, and he says, although this says they're going to accept behavioural remedies, later on in the document, it then says that basically behavioural remedies in this situation are not basically non and void, that they're not really interested. So have to be.
That's because when you do behavioral remedies, you have to have somebody you have to monitor them. But there was one person that actually did point out one thing that I have to agree with.
Yeah.
They don't really need to monitor these behavioral remedies because of just how crabby PlayStation has been. And Nintendo has already been given a 10-year deal if they get Call of Duty. So literally, the monitoring is going to be done by PlayStation and Nintendo. And if anything gets out of whack, literally all they got to do is say something. And that's where it's just like, it's kind of like,
yeah, they won't allow that.
I want to say this whole decision, I really want to say, I don't know what direction they're going to go on behavioral remedies. Are they going to go down that road of it's just too much of a pain in the ass to deal with? Or are they going to go down that road of like, well, it's not really a pain in the ass because we've all seen, I mean, PlayStation's been pounding on our door for freaking months now. If they even so much as let a fart that freaking PlayStation doesn't like the smell of, they're going to freaking come here and let us know what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. But from what Luke doesn't know what the future is. He doesn't. He just offers advice on what he thinks and what stuff means. But he just said that predominantly over the years, historically, they don't accept behavioural remedies. Very rare, in rare cases, that they ever accept it. It's one of the things. But he says, who knows? It's a unique case. But we just have to see, because the problem is they could. The funny thing is, though, they could, like, say for instance, the CMA go for a behavioural remedy, highly unlikely, but say they do, then the EU go, oh well, we want you to sell off COD.
That too, but here's the
Right.
fun. At least here's the funny part in my head is we've seen the FTC come out and say some crazy
Oh, they
crap,
won't win. They'll get destroyed by
and
Microsoft. They will.
the EU. Oh yeah, and then the EU came out and was like, "Yo, FTC, they never said that to us. You're taking things out of context." You never know, but you could almost like potentially maybe see the EU and the CMA go down the political road and be like, you know what? Let's make some behavioral remedies because I want to see the FTC squirm. I want to see them freaking, what the hell are they going to do if we're like, okay, and we just basically throw a monkey wrench in because the FTC is all of a sudden trying to come out and be like, well, we want to be the ones that challenge big tech. And, you know,
yeah, but I think what it is I think FTC's done what they've done to try and stall it, hoping the CMA or the EU will tank it because they know that they can. But we'll see what happens anyway. By April, it's April, you get the final findings. At the minute, it's down to Microsoft and the lawyers to convince the CMA what they can do.
But
I believe if they don't convince them, then they can, it won't go any further.
At any rate, I just warn everybody that regardless of whether this deal goes through or not,
if it blocks the internet, turn your Twitter off for a week. It's gonna go mental.
Dude, no, here's the other thing. Like, regretfully, this deal has negatively impacted gaming at this point. And what I mean by negatively is like everybody here is like wanting to turn this into a pissing match and some kind of a freaking Cold War of a gaming arms race, which is absolutely ridiculous. But let's look at the bigger picture here. If Microsoft gets the deal, I don't see them being as aggressive. There's going to be some bad blood between them and PlayStation. We're going to see probably a lot less cross-play games, like, games with cross-play between PlayStation and Xbox. We're going to see the two brands become very secluded from each other. And basically any game that Microsoft doesn't have to put on PlayStation is never going to show up on PlayStation because, I mean, like, literally PlayStation tried to F this up for them. So at this point, I don't really see, Xbox being very open to having to put anything on their console that they don't have to.
We'll say we will because it's
that now let's explore the idea that it's blocked. If it is blocked, we're actually going to see less games available on a lot of platforms. We're going to see PlayStation running around making third-party deals as much as they can, and then we're going to have Xbox running around with a large chunk of money because, like I've said, that money was meant to expand the Xbox brand, and that money will be used to expand the Xbox brand. And if that isn't by making studio purchases, that's going to be done by making third-party deals. And that's where we're going to probably start seeing both Microsoft and PlayStation compete very heavily on which developers that they can get on these third-party deals and basically make all this stuff to, this isn't allowed on Game Pass. This isn't allowed on PS Now. This is exclusive to Xbox. That's exclusive to PlayStation. If it does end up on PlayStation, we don't want crossplay. We don't want this. We don't want parity. Like, we're going to see, like, regretfully, gamers are going to suffer in the end because of the squabbling of these two companies.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it's like, I don't even, be honest, I don't actually play any Activision Blizzard games or anything, so it doesn't really affect me. Just it's interesting and crazy to see it all unfold. It will be one day, if it ever passes or it don't pass, You'll probably see a documentary on this.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
We'll probably see Jason Schreier out there with his sources, getting a book deal, publishing something where people could read about it, and then we're gonna see another documentary.
Can you view his tweets?
Oh yeah, dude, it is not hard to get around a block, dude.
Oh, I'm just asking, are you blocked?
No, I'm not blocked.
I am blocked.
I don't believe it.
I said something from a joke once. Someone told me to say a joke, and he'll block you.
I got blocked. Apparently
I got
you brought it to my attention last night that I am basically blocked by a dev over at Remedy because apparently I retweeted something about Atomic Heart, and
yeah, I don't even
apparently
know what
that was a negative.
to get blocked, but apparently they reckon Mike NLG. Someone reckons he was going through to see who his mates or followers were, and he was mass blocking people. But yeah, let's get off the ABK, I reckon. But yeah, you are right. We'll just have to see what happens in the end. Who knows? But yeah, are you going to be playing Atomic Heart when it comes out in Game Pass?
Oh yeah. I mean, I want it. I've been keeping up with that game for I feel like a couple years.
You have
now.
Actually, because you made a video originally, didn't you?
I made a very large video. I went and also I made a very large video. I also put it on I put an article on lordsofgaming.net.
You did.
Let's see. Moment of truth. No, I am not blocked. I am not blocked at all.
Well done.
Well, I guess I've been able to stay
off. I can't remember what I did. I can't remember. I say loads of stupid stuff on Twitter. I probably said something. I don't know.
I nailed dude. Okay, to touch on the Atomic Heart thing, because that's what we do is we talk about stuff and we're not scared to talk about it. So I guess there's some people that are upset that Atomic Heart is coming out. They want people to apparently boycott this game. It's like now we're getting into the age of boycott a game because of blank. But with Atomic Heart, its boycott is because apparently they are a Russian studio that has supposedly taken money from the Russian government. So they are somehow responsible for what's going on in the Ukraine, and their game needs to be boycotted because they took money from the Russian government.
But I believe now they've actually left Russia. I believe. I might be
right.
wrong.
Actually, so I don't think they could because Munfish. At least
I'm thinking about a different Russian studio. Sorry, I reckon.
Well, you're probably thinking about. Well, there was Frogware.
That's it.
Frogware was one of the ones in the Ukraine. They relocated.
I wasn't too impressed for them. I wasn't.
They did amazing work with
but it ain't that. It's what they were offering. No, it's what they were offering. What did you see the controversy?
See that? Yeah, the idea of having your name written on a mortar.
I didn't like that. I didn't.
Yeah, that was a little. That was questionable.
But they actually hit their targets for the budget for the game. It was getting extra money. It was.
See that just and I guess sex, drugs, and war sells. I don't know. So mental, but with Munfish, they're in Moscow, and that whole situation of like they took government money, and so therefore they're just as responsible. And it's
got defrauded by Moscow once.
For me, I just have to look at it like my dad in the final years of his life was on this program called Social Security here in the United States. Yeah, he was taking money from the US government. Was my dad out there like lobbying for everything that America did? No. I mean, during the pandemic, the United States government was handing out money left and right, and even I got money that I didn't even ask for. It just showed up in my bank account because when you file your taxes here, they have all your banking information, and it just showed up in my bank account, and it's not like you can send it back. So it was just like whatever. But was I was I out there, lobbying for all the interests of the United States because they gave me money? No, I just went about my life, and it didn't affect me at all. And that's why I just feel like, so we're not like, now we're going to condemn Munfish for taking money from the Russian government probably years before the Ukraine thing even happened, and they bought themselves a studio. And now, like, all of a sudden, like, apparently Munfish was supposed to go in and check their crystal ball and read their tarot cards to know that Russia was going to invade the Ukraine.
Exactly. It's it's just one of them things. It's not like they were telling them what to do. It's because Russia was supposedly wanted gaming to be big in Russia, so they started investing in loads of studios. I don't believe they were telling them what to do, but most countries offer grants to studios. It's like the UK. It's like, if you ever look it up as a Guardian or something, I can't remember. There was a big investigation done. Well, in Scotland, in the UK, there's a tax thing on, basically, because Rockstar Games GTA is actually based out of Scotland. Rockstar North is in Scotland in the UK. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that? GTA 5, it's Scotland, UK. That's where it's registered to.
Okay.
You get tax breaks for being a developer in Scotland. They've got offices there, and there's loads of studios doing it. Just taking these big tax breaks. The game could be developed in America, but you've got offices there, you've got devs there, so you get a tax break. Years ago, there was a Guardian article about it, and Rockstar Games was on there, called Rockstar North. We're on there, and I believe I don't know if the tax breaks are still going, but they were having tax breaks.
Dude, Dude, tax breaks exist everywhere. Like,
oh, they do. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're
Disney,
you're gonna use it, aren't you?
Well, so like, let's use Disney for example. Disney World in Florida, not Disney the production company. Let's talk Disney World, Florida.
Yeah,
they are on so much land, and they actually take up a large portion of a certain part of Florida, that they actually have to flip the bill for the fire department and the other facilities there, like medical stuff, and they actually have to flip the tax bill for that. But the only caveat is, because of how much revenue that they generate for the state of California, they are actually released, I think, of like a lot of property tax stuff. Like, basically they get a lot of tax breaks because they keep Disney World in Florida, and basically Florida does everything they can to keep Disney World, Disney from just basically, all right, we're shutting it down, we're moving to a state that's giving us a better deal. And yeah, basically Disney gets a lot of like kickbacks from the state of California for operating Disney World in Florida. And yeah, that's why, I mean, like, to fault these game companies for doing what they got to do to keep their doors open. Exactly. It's not like, the leader of Russia went over to Munfish, and Munfish, dragged out the slide projector, and they helped him determine how they were going to, where they were going to put all their tank emplacements, and how the soldiers were going to, the strategy behind how the soldiers were going to cross into the Ukraine. None of that. Like, I feel bad for the developers and the actual citizens of Russia that are stuck in that whole situation. I actually listened to a few bands from that part of the world, and I remember when the invasion of Ukraine took place, some of these guys went on Twitter and YouTube, Instagram, and they basically came out and were like, hey, we do not agree with this whole situation. And some of these guys, like some of these bands, weren't even allowed to leave Russia to go perform in other surrounding countries. In other words, they lost out on a lot of money and revenue because of the whole sanctions that were put against Russia. But they also at least accepted it. They were like, no, we accept that, what's going on isn't right, and we know the world is pissed about that, and there's nothing we can do about that. but that's where, we're talking about a video game here, a work of art.
Okay.
And I guess there's some stuff coming out about the game right now. See, that's where with Atomic Heart, I'm really hoping they get this game to a good spot. But those
I wouldn't believe everything you've seen. Wait until you play it.
Dude, you're talking about the DM that was sent to me, Atomic Heart reviews pouring in. It's all over the place with these reviewers. 74 right now for Xbox Series X Meta.
It's not bad.
That's not bad. I was hoping that it would be in the low 80s, but that was to basically get Munfish, because with Munfish, they are the victim of their own BS. They, for starters, before Atomic Heart, they had a game called Soviet Luna Park. It was a PlayStation VR game. That game was actually extremely short-lived, and they shut it down. They took people's money, and basically it was like, hey, we're going to keep your money. Some people think it was a cash grab to fund Atomic Heart, and when they realized that it was going to start costing them money, they just shut it down. But like I said, there's just that's a lot of conspiracy, but the only one thing that's known for sure is Soviet Luna Park came out on the PlayStation VR and VR on PC, and it was basically shut down very quickly after a few months. And they took some people's money, and when they did that, they basically said, hey, you're going to get a digital code for Atomic Heart when we release it. When they advertised Atomic Heart in 2017 at E3, it was also shown down in the bottom of the end cap for the game, where they show you all the platforms it's going to be on.
Yeah.
Well, PlayStation VR appeared on that end cap, but then shortly, like not even a year or so later, that it's no longer on VR. They basically canned that part of the game. This game has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. There has been rumors about people connected with the game. I don't know if it was a developer or somebody that knew a developer, but they came out and said like the gameplay demo, when their very first gameplay demo that was shown was actually faked. It was pre-rendered. All the assets that we see on screen with the enemies were on rails. They had no active AI. They were just basically doing as they were told. And the person playing the game was all staged out. And that's where they had to start dealing with that situation. And they brought in, they brought in a developer for like an older game. Like he was a retired game developer that happened to live in Russia. And the guy basically was letting people know that this game was real. It wasn't being faked. I actually have all my notes here, which is hilarious. They've also had streamers come in and play the game. Sorry, my wife just told me something. So they had one predominant streamer in Russia come in and play the game on a I hate saying the word they had one predominant streamer in Russia come in and play on a dev kit at the studio, and he was able to play the current build of the game on that dev kit. And he went on his YouTube, and he was actually allowed to film himself and some of the stuff he actually played. He went home, made a YouTube video, and sat down and told everybody that, yes, this game exists. Here's the footage of that. Now, when you watch this video, it's all in Russian. Like it was subtitled. That, I mean, like to hype them, ironlordsofgaming.net. You should be able to just type in Atomic Heart. You should be able to find the article pop up on their site. If you can't, you can also go to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, I think the video is like 20 minutes long. Actually, the Atomic Heart video is actually one of the longest videos I made. Normally, I try not to create videos that at that time I tried not to create videos that long, but there was just so much information that I felt people needed to know about Atomic Heart. It turned into a long video, and all of that is broke down. And that's not trying to hype my YouTube channel. That's trying to let people know that are interested in buying Atomic Heart and they really want to know more about Munfish. Go watch that video and you will actually see, because I put in photos of their Facebook page of when they bought their new studio in Moscow, and some of the stuff that they were doing with motion capture in that studio.
Yeah.
Did I put you to sleep?
No, I'm trying to find it. That was all.
Well, Iron Lords or?
Yeah, probably I use DuckDuckGo. I should use Google, really. I should. I use a different search engine on this PC. I do. You've got quite a lot of views, mate. I wonder if people have gone back and watched your video. 689 views on your video.
I think some people have checked it out. I think because of a lot of the newer content, I think it's been buried under a lot of the newer content. Do you guys not? Oh, I was gonna say, what the hell? Atomic Heart. Is this it?
When did you write an in-depth your Atomic Heart thing? When was it you wrote your thing for Iron Lords?
Yep, there's my name on it. This is a guest article by Centurion 1307.
When I typed in Centurion on Iron Lords website.
No, I'm not like an actual affiliate. Yeah, it was more of a guest article.
But when I typed you in, an in-depth look at Atomic Heart came up, and it was Nicholas Downey.
Yep, I worked with him. He was basically.
Oh, is it part of the article then? Is this the one?
So I wrote. Yeah, that's the article. He was basically my editor and the person I answered to at Iron Lords in writing the article, and it started out with. I wrote.
I wrote a whole guest article by Centurion. Yeah. For more work, you can find his channel here. Yeah, I see it.
I wrote. So the article started out as a script for this long ass video on Atomic Heart, and when I realized that just how much was there, it was just a shame. Just be like, I could hit delete on this right now, and all this printed info is gone. And that's when I reached out to Lord Cognito and was like, hey, I've got this thing that's like freaking 1,500 words. You know, I could easily convert it into an article. And he was interested, and he put me in touch with Nicholas Downey. And that's where me and Downey had a lot of back and forth. And he basically helped get it across the finish line as a full-blown article. And yeah, that's pretty much how that occurred there. And this was done with a combination of, this was all done with, going through and watching multiple videos from people in Russia. This was done with going on the website for Atomic Heart when the game was still pretty under the radar, and having to read a lot of stuff. Nobody knows about Soviet Luna Park. I had to go on YouTube and watch videos of people playing Soviet Luna Park just to get some of the footage for the game, because literally the game has like disappeared from public knowledge. And that's why I was like, no, like people need to be able to see this.
Yeah, I have to have a look at that article. I will. I'm sure at the time I looked at it, I can't remember. I definitely watched your video though. I know that I did.
If that's what I'm saying, that's what I mean. The video was absolute fun to create. I mean, you got to figure a 20-minute video with everything I had to compile in that, there's probably 15, 20 hours of my life wrapped up in that video.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, not
Definitely
trying
is.
to hype myself. That's just more like, see, I just want to, at least for me with my channel, I want to create a place where people can go to have a laugh, get some information on a game they're interested in, or have a good grounded opinion that's not going to turn into a toxic crap fest because blah blah blah, it's not on my console of choice. I was just thinking yesterday, actually also earlier today, as soon as I'm done with Hogwarts Legacy, I need to go back and play a few games on my PlayStation because I'm like halfway through Stray. I need to go play what's it called? Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, actually, I've put that down. I haven't completed that yet. Yeah, I forgot about
also,
that. Yeah,
you want to talk about how sick in the head I am? I'm waiting for Forspoken to go on sale. I want to check out Forspoken.
yeah.
I don't care.
I don't blame you for waiting for it to go.
I'm gonna wait because I'm gonna say right now it's not worth $70, but it's definitely worth playing. It's and that's where I'm probably gonna wait till it's probably around $40, or if I even wait long enough, hell, it might even go down to 2025 for Black Friday. But I mean, dude, I'm a sci-fi fan. I love sci-fi movies, and I have seen some really cringe acting and cringe writing. And so when, the writing for Forspoken is so cringe. Okay, cool. I might just like it then because I love a good B-rated movie.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was a good Atomic Heart conversation, that was, because a lot of people don't like talking about it.
No, but then they probably will be real quick though.
They've actually flicked. A lot of them have flicked their Atomic Heart hate because they tried the Hogwarts Legacy hate and it didn't work. It boosted sales through the roof.
Then hopefully, man, sometimes, but now, you know what the funny part is between bad news and good news is? It's all news.
It's like Vincent Mann.
Oh yeah.
What's he saying? Any news is good news, or bad news is something like that. No matter what the news is, it's good. It's good.
Well, that was like what I said. Like the debate we had last night in the DM, and like that's what, like, just so people know, like me and Stubbs are always DMing each other, and sometimes we'll have these like hour-long debate going back and forth, and I mean like debate, like really seriously debating, and it's always fun. That's why I appreciate I appreciate you, because it's like you get you deal with me, saying my opinion, you say your opinion, and we just kind of make a conversation out of it.
That's kind of why this podcast was formed. It's like I know we don't get many views, but they're fun to do.
It's fun to do, and that's where I brought it up last night and chatting with you. I was like, everybody wants Xbox to be PlayStation. They want them to go out and to wrap a game on a subway car. They want them to put Mjolnir, however you want to pronounce well, actually it was the Kratos' axe. I always associate it with Thor's hammer because of the Mjolnir edition, but at any rate, how they put Kratos' axe in the ground at some location. There's other places that are doing like holographic effects where it looks like the PlayStation symbols are coming out of the buildings. Yeah, all that stuff is really cool. Would it be great for Xbox to do it too? Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's a good media hype. But at the same time, that would mean they're copying PlayStation. And the last thing I want to see is a company like true. Wouldn't it piss you off if you owned your own company and your competition was doing the exact same damn thing you were doing? I mean, and it also feels a certain way when you're the guy that's copying someone else. It's like almost like you're being lazy about it. So I'm not going to say Microsoft has done perfect marketing. Don't get me wrong. They definitely need to definitely step their game up a little bit when it comes to marketing. But that's also in saying that at least in my mind, will never require them to do the same thing as PlayStation.
No, and they
Because
shouldn't, because
I
you're
loved
supposed to
how
be supposed to be unique. You are
right, and I loved how when you brought up Vince McMahon, I'm a big fan of watching the older Monday Night War between WCW and at WWF at the time, and it became WWE. Let my age show on that one. And
I remember it.
yeah, right. And then the World Wildlife Foundation came in and was like, no, that's our number. That's our letters.
Yeah,
And then I still remember the t-shirts where it was like, get the WWE, get the F out.
yeah, it's not a battle we could win, even with all his money. He couldn't win that.
Right. And yeah, you couldn't win that one, but that's where, at least in watching some of the interviews with Vince McMahon on the Monday Night Wars, on like, if you go on, it's on Peacock now, but go check it out if you want to see a really cool, a little cool series. It's like 15, 18-hour long episodes of different stuff that took place in the Monday Night War. And they had one where it was Vince McMahon talking about how he took the war mainstream and was getting more celebrity endorsements in the shows themselves. But the one thing he did in his show different was he showed more risque stuff. He allowed more adult humor to take over. He was willing to do things that Ted Turner's organization at WCW were not willing to do. And that's where even he even told, like, one time he was talking about how he had a conversation with Ted Turner, and Ted Turner told him, you know why you're winning? Because you're willing to show more of the teat. And he's like, no, I just think I have a better product than you. And I guess Ted Turner got mad at him and said, no, you're doing things that I would never do because it goes against my morals. And that's
tradition. It goes against tradition.
Tradition and moral, right? And that's when Vince McMahon in his interview said, he's like, you should never compete with your competitor the way they want you to compete. When you do something they didn't see coming, that puts you on a different level. And that's where I was like, that's what I felt about Game Pass. Here's PlayStation for years, like, no, exclusives. They're sacred. Our exclusives are so sacred. You need to pay your money for them if you want to experience them. And gaming is something that you just need to fork a lot of money out for. It's a sacred garden, a very expensive sacred garden. And then 2017, Phil Spencer comes out. We're launching Game Pass. You'll pay $10 a month for X amount of games. And we're going to make gaming very affordable. And then a few months later, he came out and was like, oh yeah, we're going to sweeten the deal. First party studios go into the Game Pass service day and date. That completely shut the internet down and everybody lost their damn mind. How can you be giving exclusives for $15?
What? It's good, but the first game that they actually put in day and date sadly was Gears 5. It got rushed out the door to be that first game. It was day and date. It suffered heavily because they wanted a game in game. Gears 5 should have 1 to 2 years more. It wasn't ready. Really? But they've learned the lessons. They have. Now they're not rushing Gears, but they did rush. They won't admit it, but that game was not ready for release. But they released it. They rushed it out the door because I believe that Gears 5 was the day and date game that they first put in the service. The one that was the big launch. Because all their adverts, not one of their adverts said, please buy it. Get Game Pass for $1 and play it.
So, yeah, it was 2018. No. The first ones to come out were Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, and State of Decay 2.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves was already out though, wasn't it?
It already, yeah, I would say so. Okay, no, I get you're saying launch title.
That's what I meant. Launch day and date.
Let's not say release in Game Pass. Let's say launch in Game Pass.
I believe it was. See what it says. I always thought it was Gears 5.
Maybe I should use Bing.
Hey, might be better. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you're on Spotify, if you want Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, any podcast service, please share us out if you enjoyed. Please follow us. Please leave us a 5-star rating. And if you email us at, hang on, oh, I've messed that right up, haven't I? And if you, hang on, there we go. If you email us at plasticplatforms@gmail.com with your 5-star review, we'll read it out on the air. We will. If you're enjoying the show, please share it out. Please give it a like, subscribe, comment in the YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel this time around, Stubbs Gaming's channel, and it's been fun. Have you looked it up, Centurion, yet?
What about who?
Have you looked it up yet?
I'm cheating at this point because it's not giving me a definite answer, but we're going to take a, basically we know they made that announcement in January of 2018.
Yeah,
so we're going to basically go in and we're going to look at the game releases for 2018. There we go. Now we're in 2018.
28. Well, if it was 2018, it wasn't.
See, I don't know, man.
It was 2019.
Well, so Sea of Thieves was released March of 2018.
Was
State of Decay 2, May 22nd, 2018. Forza Horizon 4, October 2nd, 2018.
Oh, fair enough then. Okay, I was wrong about Gears 5, but
oh wait, something's weird. Why are they saying there's no way? There's something wrong with this list, dude. Sunset Overdrive 2018, my ass. That was a launch title. So, but Gears 5 didn't come out until September of 2019.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the first one they did was Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2, but those also weren't big barn burning titles.
No.
Maybe let's see. Forza Horizon 4 release date. Let's see that. Click on it, damn it. Yeah, September 28th, 2018. So I want to say Horizon 4 was probably their first big barn burner of a game that got some real hype for a game like on that caliber being released. And that's when obviously we got Gears 5, which was like, you know, people had very high expectations for Gears 5. Was the game rushed out? I don't know.
I think it was. A lot of the community think it was. And they blame, because the problem is now, Xbox don't actually tell you what's successful. This is why I have a bit of a problem with them, because they just go, we've hit 5 million players, we've hit 10. So it doesn't actually tell you, it just tells you that means engagement, which is good, but it doesn't actually tell you if the game's successful. Now, is that one guy has gone in there, played one race on Forza, never came back, and did they keep counting the number going up and up and up and up? Do you see what I mean? Doesn't give you a real engage, does it? Because I believe Gears 5 failed. I do.
So that's where I don't.
You can't tell.
This is where we get into at least for me, I'm going to be up. I actually understand the idea of engagement. Because engagement is a much better unit of measure. Because at least what I do, like, so imagine somebody goes out and buys a car and then they go park it in the garage. Okay, cool. They park that car in the garage, but as the car manufacturer, they got that initial, like, you know, hey, somebody bought a car, but now we want them to be using that car. So that way, as the car, you know, breaks down and uses parts, that we're getting more return out of that customer because now we're selling them parts for that car. Same with a game. Like, you could I've got probably 30 games right now that are still wrapped in plastic.
Really? Wow.
I mean, like,
Okay.
well, maybe not 30. Maybe I'm exaggerating on that. We'll say 10, 15. I've got games that are, I have a backlog a mile long. We'll just say that. I've got games that I'm not engaging with. Yeah, they got that initial payout with me, but when we're talking like games as a service with like Gears 5, Halo Infinite, they want me to keep coming back and they want me to be interacting with the game and making microtransactions like I've been like Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online started with me buying the base game for $25. Then I
Yeah.
bought the gold edition of the game that came with all the DLC for $60. And then I've bought every subsequent expansion, which runs about $45 once a year for the past couple years. I've bought microtransactions basically for my simple $25 investment when I first bought the game. They have got me to keep going back to that well and investing hundreds of dollars and a lot of time into that game. And that's like, hey, that right there is a great unit of measure because we know now that person is heavily invested in the game and we're going to make a good return off that customer. But that's where I like using Steam charts. If we at least use that player base engagement on Steam, September 29th, September when the game came out for Gears 5, there was an average of just under 3,300 players per day. Then October, that went right down to 888. And that was on Steam. We're not talking about Xbox. We don't this was just Steam. And then it got lower and lower and lower. March 2020, it was averaging 247 players a day. And then whatever they did in April, apparently in April, it jumped to 1,050 per day.
Yeah.
And then it went right back down. And then there was other peaks. But right now, January of 2023, there is 343 players per day in Gears 5 on Steam. And in the last 30 days, the number is sitting right now at 300, a little bit over like 321.2.
Yeah. It's not good. But then again, the problem is you haven't got the Game Pass stats either. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, that's why Game Pass could be a completely different world, but that's where I'm just like, do we really consider the game a failure because it's not hitting you in your heartstrings with the story campaign and the way it works? Or is it a failure because people aren't interacting with it the way that they're wanting to? That's where, we don't really know.
The problem is what they did was the problem is what they actually did was with Gears 5 is they tried to monetize the crap out of people. The amount of microtransactions they ran through that game was ridiculous on stupid levels. They in a month or in the first few weeks of that game, they put in over $2,000 worth of skins that you couldn't get back.
Oh yeah.
They treat it like it was Fortnite, and that is what enraged people. There were skins that were never coming back. Apparently, they were made exclusively, and you had to buy them, and they'd tell you that. And that's a lot of where they went wrong. But then again, I think they've learned. It's all a learning process. I mean, it's nothing on what happened with Halo Infinite, so it is. But yeah, it is hard to measure success. Only Microsoft and their internal teams will know. They will, but it probably was successful, but it's never going to be on Halo's level, like you say, because I imagine the Steam numbers on Halo are quite big anyway. Because it's a very successful game, despite it failing apparently and being dead. It still is successful at the same time.
Well, technically, Gears 5 is still a benchmark game. Like, it's like, hey, you want to go see a good game on a PC or a console? Go play Gears 5.
Well, I mean, I've got a 1440p monitor, and it's running at 100. Gears 5 is running at 120 to 140 frames per second, and yeah, it looks multiplayer, and it looks beautiful. It looks great. It is a very successful, graphically stunning game. But if you play Hivebusters, that's Hivebusters is much better than the base game. It is graphically, narrative wise, everything is better than the base game because the base game tried to be open world, semi-open world, whereas Hivebusters was a linear world, a story like Gears is supposed to be. It was great.
Well, we're probably going to see less and less of games as a service being pushed now, purely because the market is completely oversaturated. And we're starting to see titles like Elden Ring and WB Games totally prove Hogwarts Legacy totally prove that single player games can hold their weight and actually do pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, definitely. It has shown. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, from what I've seen, and Thai guy Travis joked about this on Season Gaming, but they've got a very good model there, that Hogwarts Legacy. If they wanted to keep churning out content for people to buy over the years, it could be a very good game for if you wanted to keep it rolling. I mean, like content wise, and have a roadmap of new content. You could, but the developers have said they haven't got any new content ready for people.
Right now, there is no content that they. I don't even know if they have content planned.
But had they thought about it and visioned the success, it's a risky game for them to release.
Oh, it was a risky game. See, that's what I mean. It was a risky game, and that's where
it's a risky game. Like, I know when it comes to Game of the Year, it's a big difference between people enjoying it and reviewers wanting to put their name. Panelists wanting to put their name next to it because of what's happening, doxing, etc. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that whole.
A lot of them will they have the bottle to put? They would have the bottle to go through with it? I don't know if they will. You see, but no, it's but yeah, I do enjoy Gears 5. I play it a bit more regular than I used to. But yeah, it's been a good show. It always flows. It's not like traditional shows that we hit topics, but it's kind of in the flow of conversation, isn't it?
Right. It's not like some pre-planned itinerary. Like
I had my phone opened on different articles I sent you, but I didn't actually read the entire article out. But people got the gist of what we were talking about. They did,
Right.
But yeah, it's been a fun show it has tonight. If you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, or any audio platform, please give us a follow, a review if you like us, and share us out on social media. We'd really appreciate that. If you'd like to get your rating read out on the show, plasticplatforms@gmail.com, and we'll happily read it out. Or if I see you on any of the platforms, I'll give you a shout out. But Spotify, you can't write one. It's just literally 1 to 5 stars. So I wouldn't see that as such. If you let us know, I can give you a shout out. Definitely try and grow the podcasts. But yeah, please subscribe to this channel. And it's been a good show tonight, Centurion. It has. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, anytime, man. I enjoy the discussions.
So, just looking now. The next show should be on the 6th of March. It should be.
I should be able to make that next weekend. Like that's where it's up in the air if I'm going to make it to Sunday's TXR. It is my 13th wedding anniversary. So
yeah, no. Don't post the podcast. No, don't do that.
No, don't do that.
No, don't. You might not make it past your 13th if you do that.
Oh my gosh.
But no, it's been a fun show. And next time, everyone, it will be on Centurion's YouTube channel. Obviously, if you join us on podcast platforms, it always be in the same place. But next time round, it'll be on Centurion's channel. The algorithm still doesn't like my YouTube channel because
the algorithm don't like me.
Don't like me because I used to do weekly shows, you see, and we've got 2 viewers at the minute. We have so the algorithm, because I've done it weekly. He used to love me. The algorithm did. When you stop doing it, the algorithm doesn't like you anymore, does it?
Nope. I'm going to be blowing the dust off of my YouTube channel.
Nice.
And I've already told you my new video. People will actually be able to see my face.
Really?
That's going to be a new experience right there.
You did mention it. I didn't know if you were serious or not.
Oh no, I'm in it. My wife actually sat down today and actually watched it before I so when you use Adobe and you create a video, you have to export it so that way it compresses it and does everything it should to make it a 4K video and everything for YouTube. And she basically watched the rough cut of it today. I still got to add some background music and effects, but when she saw it, she was like, she actually enjoyed it and thought it was actually very funny, because she had no idea that I was going to basically have some fun with it. And I brought basically me and Fanboy are having a discussion.
Well, actually, what you don't know, people, is I was in hysterics at the start because I thought Centurion was there, but Fanboy started speaking instead.
Oh God, yeah, that I do that all the damn time. I leave the damn voice synthesizer on because before I had the voice synthesizer, I had to actually use Adobe to actually alter the audio to create his voice. And then out of nowhere, dude, this is one of the reasons why I love Yeti products. Yeti came out and was like, hey, we created the Logitech G Hub. And if you have a Yeti microphone, there's a built-in synthesizer now that you can use your computer. Oh yeah. So
I got Yeti.
I basically I can talk live into the microphone, and you heard that, where it does all the synthesizing right there through the software, and I don't have to do it during the editing process, and it saves so much time doing Fanboy's voice, because for the longest time you'd have to go in and it took like 3 effects. When I first started doing Fanboy, it took 3 different effects to create his voice to make it sound like that.
Really? Oh, okay. That's nice to know. That's you can do that synthesizing. That'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm more interested in your video. It'd be interesting. That will be.
I'll send you the link to it. I hope you laugh at it. I mean, it was
unlisted, obviously, or private.
It was wanting to have some. It was something fun to do because everybody loves podcasts, and I always said it would be fun to have a podcast with Fanboy on it. And that's when it was just like, I was just like, well, why the hell do I not podcast with Fanboy? You know, there's nothing like having an argument with yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, look out for that on Centurion's channel, people. The link is in the description on the podcast feeds and on this channel, on the YouTube channel as well. But thanks for joining us, everyone. There was Paul FC, Talius Gaming at the start, Dreadpool popped in, a Friendly Pest popped in. Yeah, there's quite a few people popped in, but the algorithm still doesn't like my going live because I don't do it weekly. But I'll fix that eventually. But yeah, thanks everyone for popping in, and I will see you on the 6th of March on Centurion's channel.
Yep. See you, everybody.
See ya.